This one's going to be more of a blog post kind of thing because I don't have any major projects completed this week. We've been working on them. Mostly this week, I need to get a bunch of smaller stuff done. So, while I work on it, I figured I would go over something people have been asking me questions about. Quite a few people have asked me various questions on, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you're making the right decision to leave the cities? And they had various questions that I figured I can answer them. So here's a bunch of reasons that if you are a city person, you've lived all your life in the city, in this video, some things that city people need to consider before they decide to move rural out into the country. Oh, those are neat. That is a big tarp. Time to run some hoses through the trees on the property. When I say city dwellers versus country dwellers, I'm not in any way casting aspersions on either one. Some of the people we know are city people, self-admitted. Got a couple of our friends that each one describes himself as an indoor cat. And I get it. Sometimes people think country or rural and they think stupid. And I get where they're coming from. Some rural people are pretty stupid, but then again, I mean, the amount of uneducated, ignorant idiots I've met in the city is probably on par with anything you find in the country. They just have prettier hairstyles. If you have never lived rural, I suppose the very first thing that you should know is country life out in the sticks is dirty. And there's no getting around that.
Right.
Like, this is what I'm talking about. What the heck happened here? Every property tells a story. I wonder what this one is. You are unlikely to hire an entire fleet of gardeners to clean up your property for you. You will probably have to get your hands dirty more than a few times. How the hell does that work? You will eventually start using certain clothes to do certain work because those clothes are going to get dirty to the point that you can never clean them off. Like, I don't think these boots are ever going to get clean. This is after I scrub them with soap and water. But as my uncle on his ranch was ever fond of saying, God made dirt and dirt don't hurt. And that's not actually true. Dirt can hurt you sometimes, but that's just a risk you take out here. If you are not interested in living a slightly dirtier lifestyle than in the city where everything is usually mostly sanitized, maybe rethink moving rural. We don't have sidewalks out here. We don't have pavement. So, oh, okay, I get it. The second thing is something that I talk about in my other videos. Lack of easy conveniences. I mean, this one probably has a lot to do with where exactly you decide to set up a rural homestead. You might have a homestead that actually has grid utilities. I've seen a few of those. You might have a homestead with just raw land and no grid anything, in which case you're going to have to build out your own solutions for that. Oh, the batteries are in the light. Ha! Smart. And that appears to be a very, very long cable, which is great. So that means I can mount the solar panel out of the shed and mount the light in the shed, and it will have enough length to work. If you have never lived in the middle of nowhere and all your life you've been in the city and you're thinking about doing what we're doing, getting out of the city, I'm not saying don't do it. I am saying just for 1 week, carry a little notepad with you. Every time you go to the store, make a note. Every time you get some fast food, make a note. Every time you stop for a coffee at Starbucks, make a note. Do this for a week. You don't have to write down time and date even, really. All you're doing is just for 7 days keeping track of how often you can just go pay someone for something immediately. Out here, that's not really a thing. I know I brought up fast food about 1 billion times so far on this channel, and the reason I keep bringing it up isn't just that I miss it. I'd actually weaned myself off of fast food for about 6 months before we ever came out here for completely different reasons. It's mostly because I don't think people realize that if you have no access to fast food, a lot of people are going to get real stressed out and not be able to eat as easily. If we need to go to the store, I've already shown, it's basically a half-hour drive each way. And our options are kind of limited when we do get to town because it's not a big town. This lack of convenience is something that I know has driven a few of my friends who moved somewhere rural kind of nuts. And they eventually quit and went back to the city because they could not handle this lack of modern convenience. It's something to really think about if you're considering this. Because there is a lack of conveniences out here, another thing people don't really understand is that the more you want to build out your homestead and the more features you go for, the more work it's going to be. And although if you do it right, the first setups will probably be the hardest work. You're never going to not have work on a homestead. There's a channel on YouTube that prides themselves on no days off. And I think that's a little extreme. You can take a day, usually, from your homestead and go to town, watch a movie, go see some sights, go to the county fair, go visit family, go have friends. But compared to where I was 6 months ago, Yeah, don't get an awful lot of downtime. There's always something that needs to be built or fixed or maintained. There's always chores, there's always something to do. And if you're somebody who's really not into that, I'd say that's a pretty hard stop right there. You can't really do lazy homesteading. Even the channels that say they are doing lazy gardening and lazy homesteading are doing more work than almost anyone I know who's a city dweller. Solar. Another thing that some people have asked me about is it cheaper to live in the country or is it more expensive in the city? Now that's one that doesn't have a blanket answer. That entirely has to do with what kind of homestead you have, how much land you have, where you live, and what you want to do with it. There is one thing that I think every single homesteader will tell you. Stop that. And that is you will have some startup costs. They will widely vary, but a lot of these costs won't be the land or what you're sleeping in or what you're living in. It's going to be tools. Even if you go to a pawn shop or a flea market, thrift store, most people will not have tools unless they work in construction already. That's just simple. And you are going to need tools. You are going to need probably a lot of tools. Unless you are absolutely loaded with money and you can just pay for a handyman to come out for every little thing. Chances are you're going to be doing a lot of your own fixes. So you will need tools. Tools are all too often not cheap. Where am I gonna put this? Of course, I already hit the cracks with foam that I could run this cable out. Because I was trying to make this more waterproof. If I go through there. Oh man, that is in there. Well, that's a pain in my tuchus. Did I really seal up all of them? I did a good job. Huh? Maybe if I can squeeze it through. Yeah, I think I can. Ha ha ha. Get out there. Get out through that hole. And then bend right back to where you were because I don't want that hole getting bigger. And of course I did this completely backwards. For most people, you will have startup costs of some kind on a homestead. There's really no getting around it. Stuff costs money. You're going to need land. You're going to need living accommodations. You're going to need power in all probability, although that's up to you. You're going to need water. You're going to need toilet. Oh, that was lame. Okay. Yeah, I think that'll work. So that's yellow, white, yellow, off. Yay! You know what? I ain't gonna worry about it too much. Because light works. Cool. Ugh. All right. So we need a wheelbarrow. Speaking of tools. All right. Hardware. Instruction booklet. Okay. I'm pretty sure everything's there. I think. Okay. These instructions are written with almost no words. It's just pictures. Alright. So, I guess I gotta take everything out of this bucket first. Wheels! Handle! Another thing that I think city folks really need to understand before they try to move rural is the silence. Even when I lived in Dallas, we'd go camping on a fairly regular basis for quite a while. And some of my friends who were very much into city life couldn't really handle the lack of noise. And I get it. This is a real thing. I just spent 30 years in Dallas, one of the biggest metroplexes in the United States, and even the world. And you get used to the thrum and hum and constant, non-stop sounds of the city. Some of our friends in the city who would go camping with us once didn't want to do it again and literally named the lack of sound, the quietness. It's kind of creepy. They weren't into that. Ooh, how nice of them. They included 2 wrenches. These aren't even the cheap stamped sheet steel wrenches either. These are actual wrenches. All right. More tools. Okay, that's a thing. It's a thing. Everything in this is a thing. And I'll admit, moving back out here almost 2 months ago, at first, getting used to the silence was a change. Even now, when I'm working on a project, all too often, if it's just me working on it, I'll turn on some music. Because the silence can get a little eerie. And I just like music. Especially at night, it can get scary for people who have only ever lived in a city. I get it. I may have grown up like this, but it's been decades. I has a bucket. It can also be very jarring for some people that living out here, there are no, as I said in a previous video, there's no real emergency services like there is in the city. You break your leg in the city, you call 911, you're going to be in a hospital in 15 minutes. You break your leg out here and call 911, if you get signal at all, it might be a bit. Good-sized bolts. If you're living rural and you're not burning anything and you smell wood burning, you go outside. You already know where your fire extinguishers and your garden hoses are, just in case. Because things can happen. On that note, and this is something that a lot of people will warn you about, if you live in the city and you have a chronic health problem that needs frequent doctor visits, prescriptions, and care, I don't want to dissuade anyone from trying, but this might not be the life for you. I'm not saying anybody with a chronic health condition is automatically a weaker member of the human species or any of that nonsense. I am saying that medical facilities out here are pretty far away. And especially in New Mexico, they've got a real lack in the rural areas of healthcare professionals. So, just saying. if you've got a heart condition or, you know, really bad diabetes or anything of that nature, I'm not saying you can't go homestead. I'm saying you need to be a little more careful than regular homesteaders, because out here it can get a little difficult for folks with health conditions. But the remote piece is also something I definitely missed. And now that I've gotten used to it, it's great. Spent the last 30 years living next to 2 major United States airports. Now out here, I'm only near Holloman Air Force Base and missile testing facility. So if we hear a plane or a jet or an aircraft out here, it's usually something pretty freaking interesting. Another big one. If you're a city dweller and you don't like wild animals or spiders or insects, you're probably going to have to change your mind on that. Most animals out here aren't really that dangerous, but we do have rattlesnakes and bears, and there's been reports of cougars. And this is just our area. Anywhere you go that's rural is going to have wild animals. And sometimes, very late at night or early in the morning, you might hear a sound. And it might be an animal that you need to make sure isn't being a danger to your property. That said, I also have a policy that I don't mess with wild animals. I don't pet them. I don't pick them up. Not really a thing. Especially not snakes. I'm not afraid of snakes. I just did something real dumb in my teens out at the original homestead I lived on. Found out the hard way. You don't want to pick up a wild snake. It doesn't matter if it's venomous or not. Get off me. Ha! Okay, they can only go on one way, so thanks for making these instructions real simple to follow, folks in Taiwan or wherever this was made. Let's talk about money again. I've seen people on homesteading channels claim that the homesteading life is cheaper than city life, and I've seen the exact opposite. The reality is that comes down to, where are you planning your homestead? Just off the top of my head, I was looking at various land in Vermont and various land in Colorado. Land in those places cost 5 or 6 times what it costs out here. And then I looked at land in northern Nevada, out in the Nevada Badlands, and it was half the price of land here. It comes down to, what kind of environment are you comfortable creating a homestead in? I have no problem with high desert. I spent half my youth in the high desert. I know what this place is like. But some people might not like the heat. Okay, that's fine. Some people might not like the dryness, the aridity of it. And hey, you know, if you're looking to do a homestead, you're looking at buying land and building a home on it outside of the city, you might as well see if you can afford somewhere that... Phone overheated in the middle of taking that last video. Well, that's part of the video, so trying again. Homesteading is a time, money, and life investment. If you're going to spend the time, money, and your life building a homestead outside of the city, you might as well find some place that you like. Some people like humidity, some people like snow, some people like the desert. Find what you like. And then shop around. We undo this giant nut. No jokes. If you shop around for land, you will find, especially on the internet, there are multiple options now to buy land. Really won't break the bank. You might not be near a city, or it might be in a climate that other people don't find acceptable. But, oh wow. Man, this one's tight. But you should be able to find affordable land, and maybe it just doesn't have anything built on it yet. That's the thing that I think scares a lot of people. I was actually looking into buying land and homesteading it out before Amber inherited this place. Also, if you're one of those people who thinks this is cheating, no, it's not. We didn't get a huge leg up because she inherited this property. This property is not actually worth that much money. It's really not. Like, if we were to sell this land right now for what it's worth, we would probably not even have enough money to get a good down payment on a regular house in a city. But we have no intention of selling this place because Eric built this place up from scratch. When he got here, there was nothing. And he left it to Amber. And we love what he did with the place, and we want to improve on it. You could say we were lucky, we were blessed. That said, if I'd saved up for 5 or 6 years, I probably could have purchased a plot of land that was very similar to this in the same area. And there are other options for buying land. I'll leave a couple of links in the description of this video that people I know have used to purchase or lease land for a homestead for very, very little money. There are plenty of people who homestead by buying raw land, and they show up with a camper shell on a truck. They haul their own water for a while. They use a generator. They go into town to buy water. And then they start figuring it out. I follow quite a few people on YouTube who have done exactly this. Is it easy? No, not usually. But it's also not super expensive. It just takes time and dedication. And this leads into something else that I think this is one of the biggest bits of advice when it comes to homesteading. I know this from years of doing this as a kid, months of now doing this here. The biggest cultural change, the biggest life change that most Americans living in cities, the biggest challenge they'll have is that if you're going to homestead, you got to be ready to get things done. Can't just call a handyman or a gardener. Can't just order a pizza if nobody cooked it tonight, because nobody probably delivers pizza to where you're at. Oh, come on, you can get on there. You can't just call the police if you hear a loud noise late at night when you don't want to hear one. And that's something that city life does not prepare you for out here. I'm not saying all city people are lazy and all city people are stupid at all. I was just a city person for the last 30 years. I am saying that when something breaks, you're probably going to have to fix it yourself. And if you don't know how to fix it, you're going to have to try anyway. That scares some people quite a bit. I've known people who straight up never even want to own a home, because as a homeowner, you have to do a lot of your own repairs. And they don't want that responsibility. Part of me thinks it's just a fear of failure. If you're homesteading, you cannot just surrender to the fear of failure. In 2 of my videos already, you've seen me fail. Did I like failing? No, absolutely not. Nobody likes to fail. Ever. But our society right now tries to basically teach people failure is unacceptable at all times, and is the worst sin you can possibly do is to fail at something. Maybe you didn't know the answer to something or how to do something. And if you're homesteading, Man, you got to swing anyway if you don't know, even if you don't know how to hold the bat. You have to try. And yeah, sometimes you will try. You will try something you know you are in no way educated, experienced, or prepared to take on. And yeah, you'll fail. But you'll learn as you go. And you probably won't make that bad mistake again the next time that you have to try. One thing we didn't have when I was growing up is what you're watching me on right now. The internet. If you don't know how to do something, there are thousands of videos on YouTube usually showing you how to do it. So do some research first. But you got to try anyway. Because if you don't, all too often on a homestead, failing to even try to fix something will make the problem worse. Anyway, almost got this wheelbarrow together. Amber just reminded me of one thing. I have seen this on YouTube channels in the comments sections where there are people who will say that if you're not 100% off grid in their opinion, you're not truly homesteading. You're not really off grid. And I had somebody already throw some of that shade my way. First of all, I never said that we were off grid at this homestead. Never. Not once. We would like to be. We're working on it. But right now, we're not off grid. We have municipal electricity. We're about 75% off grid. We have a septic tank. We have electricity on the grid. We have a well, and we have propane in a tank. And Lord, in the homesteading community, man, there are already people who would be willing, even if we had this solarized, even if this was 100% solar electricity, they would still scream that we're not really off grid. You have a propane tank.
Haters gonna hate.
Well, I mean, these are people you can't appease. By their logic, people who light their houses 100% with candles aren't off grid unless they harvest beeswax from apiaries they personally built and make wicks out of wool from sheep they raised from babies.
The only people who can probably actually make those claims are
the Amish.
The Amish. Like, quite literally.
Well, we're not Amish.
No.
Oh, okay, I get it. One of the things that we found helps here are the municipal services that we have. We have internet. Even if our home internet, which isn't bad, were to go out, we have our phones for internet. We have municipal electricity. And we found out, against all odds, a local trash company will come out and grab our trash. We didn't actually expect that. But, man, it's great. Because until they started their service out here, we were doing 2 or 3 trips to the dump per week, hauling all the trash in our cars. And we still have to do that from time to time because there's certain big trash they won't take. Again, as I said in that prior video, if anyone in Alamogordo knows how we can get rid of this hot tub, hit me in the comments. Okay, this is the part I hate on anything like this. Cotter pins are stupid.
What pins?
Cotters. They're stupid split pins that you use to put things in place. And I think it's one of the dumbest inventions humans ever came up with. Oh, we're just going to use a cotter pin instead of a regular screw. What a good idea. No, it won't break somewhere down the line and cause no end of problems. Anyway. But yeah, when you start homesteading, if you're running into hatred from people who aren't there and probably aren't even on a homestead and are just giving you grief, tell them to pound sand. They're not there. This is not their journey. It ain't their life. They're just haters on the internet. We have had very few of those so far, but we have had one person already hit me up going, if you guys have trash service, oh my god, are you really even homesteading? All right.
People will apply standards to other people that they would never apply to themselves.
On the internet?
Yeah.
Shocking.
Shock.
Absolutely shocking. I think I'm about done. Right on. Okay. I believe. Whoop. Ah! Hell yeah! This is a Vivor wheelbarrow cart. It's got 4 wheels. I believe this one claims it can hold up to 800 pounds. And how's it work? Okay. And if you do this, as you can see, you can just lift and dump it like a wheelbarrow. And when you're done, put it back down and into the wagon. What will they think of next? So to wrap this up, I'm going to paraphrase something that John Muir once wrote. I read it again recently, right before we moved here, and it struck me really hard. I don't want to be somebody in the city just trapped in a 9-to-5 job, Monday through Friday, spending my weekends maybe experiencing a little nature once every month or two. I don't want to be chained to a lifestyle where all I'm doing is making money for other people who worship money. This opportunity has allowed us to break free of all that. If you're somebody who's thinking about doing a homesteading lifestyle, I guess what I've been saying in this video is know your limitations, know what you're comfortable with. But if it comes down to taking a chance, making your life better, and finding joy and happiness and freedom outside of the city, if you're just afraid, if you're just scared, everyone who does this is at some point. Take a chance. Try it. You might try and fail. And that's a risk whether you're in the city or out in the country. Give it a chance. Try it. If nothing else, it won't be boring. Anyway, there'll be more videos of actual completed projects in coming days. And we got a lot coming. Until then, be cool.